Hey guys, welcome to Mystery Diagnosis. I thought I'd let you hear the intro for once.
When illness strikes, we look to doctors to give us answers. But what if they can't? For these unlucky patients, diagnosis is a mystery.
I love the intro. It's so cool.
Cheryl notices she's sweating more than she used to, and has even developed a strange new smell.
It was more of a musty odor. I mean, we can all imagine if you've been out in the sun, say doing yard work, and you're sweating a lot. It was basically that type of odor. I tried every single one, maybe 2 or 3 times.
By the end of the year, Cheryl has experimented with more than 20 deodorants.
I think there's a problem because I can smell myself even if I'm not overly exerting myself. He seemed to understand, and he explained that I have hyperhidrosis.
Hyperhidrosis is a condition that often begins around the time of adolescence. Patients perspire excessively, regardless of the temperature or their level of stress.
As we all know by Mystery Diagnosis, that condition is way too early to be the correct one.
My family doctor prescribed a very strong deodorant, and I was so excited, and I thought, it's got to work.
For the first time in 5 years, Cheryl is hopeful that she might once again be able to lead a normal life.
I followed all the appropriate instructions. He says, cover it with saran wrap. Do that just before you go to sleep. The first night I use it, I did notice, so it does decrease the sweating a little bit.
Which is good.
I had to stop because it was very irritating. It got to the point where the top layer of the skin is just peeled away because it's that strong.
I don't blame her.
Family doctor's next obvious conclusion, she still has a problem. Well, let's take out the source of the problem.
He explains that the only permanent treatment for hyperhidrosis is to surgically remove her overactive sweat glands.
I don't feel like that would cure it.
Yay, this has got to be it. I had the surgery, and I remember waking up later that day. I had bandages packed under both arms. I was so hopeful that, this was the biggest thing I had done to try to solve the problem.
After 72 hours, her optimism is suddenly shattered.
The odor just comes right back. There would be not one bead of sweat under either arm. The sweat glands are gone. So why is there still an odor?
She graduates from high school and makes a pivotal decision.
Right out of high school, I had wanted to go to nursing school. I applied, and I got accepted, and I was to start that September. But I just became a little panicked.
Overwhelmed by her condition, Cheryl backs out of school at the last second
I wish she went.
and gives up her dream of becoming a nurse.
I wish she didn't quit. I thought she would make a good nurse. Just a feeling.
Cheryl feels ready to pursue her long-postponed dream, nursing school.
I'm glad she decided to do it.
Cheryl graduates and begins working at a local hospital. So Cheryl decides to take matters into her own hands. Using her medical training as a guide, she begins a full-on investigation into a range of different diseases and conditions.
Good for her.
Then, in the summer of 2005, she's surfing the web when suddenly she strikes gold.
I was doing online research, and I came upon this support group. There must have been about 4,000 posts.
Cheryl completes the test and ships her samples off to Dr. Fennessy's lab.
I mean, it's been 30 years, literally.
When we looked at her sample, she turned out to have just about a 50-50 ratio of trimethylamine to trimethylamine oxide. And so it's clear that her enzymes are not functioning correctly.
Is trimethylaminuria.
Trimethylaminuria, also known as TMAU, is a rare metabolic disorder in which the liver fails to process the chemical trimethylamine, which can often smell like rotting fish. Over time, the chemical builds up in the body, causing patients like Cheryl to excrete a strong and offensive odor.
Any way it can get out, it gets out. If you think about how volatile and how pungent ammonia is, trimethylamine is like ammonia. It goes through the body and come out every single pore, and then ends up causing people around to notice very quickly that there's something awry, and it's oftentimes perceived as offensive.
And while she's relieved that the diagnosis carries with it no risks to her overall physical health, she continues to struggle with the psychological side effects of this disorder.
The first textbook that I've seen written describing trimethylamine was in 2006 or 7. And so that's the very first time that this has really actually entered the medical teaching literature.
But the diagnosis is bittersweet. There is no known cure or treatment for TMAU. However, Dr. Fennessy assures Cheryl that it's still possible to live a relatively normal life by adjusting her diet.
This disease is really driven by the things that you eat and the things you eat a lot of. One of the worst offenders would be eggs. If you ate nothing but eggs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you're going to smell to high heaven.
Other foods high in trimethylamine include legumes, meat, and dairy. In fact, Dr. Fennessy is so confident that the disease can be triggered by diet that he suspects her first episode 30 years ago was induced by the food she was eating at the time. Today, Cheryl keeps the odor in check by paying close attention to the food that she brings into the house.
Her diet's really changed. I love fish, but that's one of the problem food for her. Now we don't eat any at all.
God bless him. I love him so much. He is so supportive. He has stuck with me through this whole thing.
But more than anything, the diagnosis has given Cheryl the courage to face the world without shame.
I think now she seems more positive, and
I'm glad.
she's actually taking the bull by the horn.
I've had to do a lot of this really on my own because doctors just didn't know. I want to put that behind me. I think it's made me a stronger person.
Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.